How do you get the area of a square? It's side times side, right? So you just multiply all sides, and then that's the area of a square. How about for the area of a rectangle? Basically, it's length times breadth, right? Okay, and then have you learned how to get the volumes of shapes or figures? Have you learned that? Okay. Now, for volume of, let's say, a cuboid is a three-dimensional rectangle. Okay. Basically, it has length, breadth, but now it has thickness. It has thickness. That's why it has what we call height. Okay, so basically, to get the volume of a cuboid or a three-dimensional rectangle, so that's equal to length times breadth times height. Just that. Okay. Now, having this, let's have one question. Okay, with regards with formulas that we have learned from geometry. Okay. Uh, this is one is in your book. You can just follow this, guys, or maybe you can refer from your book. But let me explain this example here. Okay, let's have this question. So the formula for finding the volume or V of a cuboid, again, cuboid is a three-dimensional rectangle, which is given by V is equal to length times breadth times height, or LBH. Okay, where LB and H represents the length, breadth, and height of the cuboid respectively. Now, first question. Now, if the length is 5 centimeters, if the breadth is 2 centimeters, and the height is 3 centimeters, what is the volume of the cuboid? So basically, given the formula, what's the formula? This one, right? So for letter A, okay, let me zoom here. Okay. So for letter A, again, the volume is equal to the product of the length, the breadth, and the height. So that is equal to, or the volume is equal to 5 times 2 times 3. So what is the volume of the cuboid? So basically it's 30 centimeters cube, or 30 centimeter cube. By the way, take note of that. That is the units for volume. It's always cube because you have 3 dimensions, okay? Okay, so that's your answer for letter A. How about for letter B? Now, for letter B, instead of finding for the volume, we are now finding for a missing dimension. It may be the length, it may be the breadth, it may be the height of the cuboid. So let's have letter B. Okay. So for letter B, if V, or the volume, is 240 centimeter cube, this one, okay, and the breadth is 6 centimeters and the height is 5 centimeters, what is the length? So what is L? Okay. Now, by the way, I'm using this L, okay, because some people mistake if I wrote it like this, it looks like a number 1, right? So I'll just use a cursive letter L, okay? And anyway, for letter B, we're looking for the length of the cuboid, right? So how do we do that? Now we write the formula again. Okay, class, remember this, always start with the correct formula, okay? So again, to get the volume of a cuboid, it's V is equal to length times breadth times height, okay? Now, what do? We substitute these values first in our formula, okay? We plug this here, okay? So do you have any question? Anyone? So far so good. All right, so let's substitute. So the volume given is what? 240, right? Equals, what is L? So we're looking for L, so we keep it as letter L. And then what is the base? Sorry, the breadth. The breadth is 6, right? And then what is the height? The height is 5. All right, so if you're looking for L, think of L as just solving for X. Okay, now what do we do when we solve for X? Or we solve for an unknown. This is what we call an unknown because we don't know what it is. Okay, so let's solve for the value of L. So basically, I'll just bring down 240 and bring down L. What is 6 times 5? I think that's 30, right? 30. Okay. Now you can put 30 in front of L. It can be 30L or it can be L and 30. Okay. It's up to you. Okay. Now, what's next? How do we solve for L? So just like before, we solve L by dividing both sides by 30 because we need to get rid of 30, right? Okay, so this is canceled out. So what is L? What is the length? So what is 240 divided by 30? That is 8 centimeters. Don't forget the unit. Okay. All right. So that's your answer for letter B. For number 1A, if M is 1,000 kilograms and acceleration is 0.05 meter per square second, find the net force acting on the body. So for number 1, you just plug in 1,000 for mass and then 0.05 for acceleration. So what's the force? Okay, if you like Star Wars, what's the force? Okay, so the force given here is 50 newtons. Okay, so that's your answer for 1A. Now, how about for 1B? Now, for 1B, we're given the force now. Okay, force is 100 newtons. And then acceleration is 0.1 meter per square second. So the question here is, how do we find for the mass? Okay, so just like solving for X, uh, how do we get rid of 0.1, right? So we just divide both sides by 0.1, right? Oops, sorry. Okay, so 0.1. Okay, so 0.1. So this is canceled out. So what is the mass? Okay, so mass is equal to 1,000 kilograms. Okay, so that's your answer for letter B. Okay. Do you have any question? Stella, Brian, and Ryan. Okay, do you have any question? Okay. No question, yeah. Okay. Let me just move it here. It's okay. How about number 2? For number 2, we are given a formula, specific formula. Okay. Now, if y plus b is equal to ay plus c over b, we need to calculate the value of c. How do we calculate for this? Okay. When y is 12, b is 3, a is 14. So first things first, always write the formula first. Okay. You need to always rewrite. That's a good practice class. But be always careful when you rewrite your formula. Okay. So this one, and then next step is to plug in. So if this is 12, you put in 12 here. If B is 3, you put in 3 here. Okay. And then if A is 14, you put in 14 here. Okay. Now, let's do that. Okay. So Y is 12. Okay. So that's 12 plus 3 equals 14. That's for A. And Y is 12 plus C over B. What is B? B is 3. Okay, so I suggest answer everything first. So this is 15 equals what is 14 times 12? 14 times 12 is 672, right? Am I right? Oh, sorry, 168. Okay, that's just 168. 168 plus C all over, okay, or over 3. Okay, so what do we do first? We get rid of 3, right? Okay, so we cross multiply this. Okay, so I'll cross multiply this. So that gives me 45 equals 168 plus C. So to get rid of 168, what do we do with 168? We transpose this to the left side. Okay, so it becomes 45 minus 168 equals C. Okay, so therefore, what is C? So C is equal to negative 123. Okay, is that your answer? Okay, so that's your answer. Okay, so that's your answer for number 2. Do you have any question, class? Hmm? No
No.
question. Second one. Okay. Okay. So Stella, Ryan, and Brian, I still don't have your paper here. Okay. Okay. So that's number 1 and 2. And then last one for today. Okay. We go to the next page, page 137. Okay. Now on page 137, we're just going to construct some formulas. Okay. So it's basically translating words to equations again, just like before. Okay. So for the first one, find a formula for the sum of any three consecutive even numbers. Okay. Now, do you still remember, class? How do we write consecutive even or even odd numbers? Okay. Let me write that. So number one. Okay. So for number one, how do we write three consecutive even numbers? Always. N is always the first number, right? Just the first even number. And then how do we write the next one? It's always n plus 2, right? The second one, second even number. And then what's for the third one? It's n plus 4. That's for the third one, third even number. Okay, and then so on and so forth. It's always n plus 2, n plus 4, n plus 6. Okay, so what's the simplest explanation for that? If your first number is 2, that means that the next even number should be 4. That's why this is n plus 2, right? So 2 plus 2 is 4. And then basically the third even number after 4 is 6. That's why if n is 2, 2 plus 4 is 6, right? Anyway, for number 1, I think it's very basic now. So S is equal to 3n plus 6. Okay, that's it. Okay. Do you have any question, class, for number 1? Okay. So how did I get 3n? N plus n plus n. And then how did I get 6? It's just 2 plus 4. Okay. Now let's go to number 2. Okay, for number 2, hence, calculate the value of S when the smallest even number is 14. Okay. 14. So what is our answer? Hmm? Okay, so given this question here, of course, the first is the smallest even number, right? So let's say n is equal to 14, right? That's it. That's for number 2. N is equal to 14. How do we calculate S? So S is equal to 3n plus 6. So we just plug in 14 here. Okay. So S is equal to 3 times 4. Okay. So what is the value of S? So it's 3 times 14 plus 6. So your answer is 48. So that's your answer for. So it's basically exactly the same, right? But instead of 3 and plus 6, it's now what? Because it became n plus 2. Sorry, let me start with this. So we have n as our first number, the next is n plus 2, and then n plus 4, then n plus 6, right? So this will be your first, your second number, your third, and this is your fourth number, okay? So s is equal to 4n plus 12, okay? All right, 4n plus 12, okay? So this is your answer for number 1. Then for number 2, using the same formula from number 1, s is equal to 4n plus 12. So what is s? Okay, s is equal to 68. So 4 times 14 plus 12, 68. Okay, so that's it. Do you have any question, Sagwan? None? No question?
No.
Okay, this topic is pretty easy. All right, so let me have one more example for constructing a formula or formulae. Now, this one is not in your book, so please listen carefully. Okay, so let's have number 1. State the formula for the area of a semicircle of a radius r. All right, now, have you studied the area of a circle? What is the formula for getting the area of a circle? Anyone? You have an idea? So the area of a circle is equal to what? Circle first. Circle. Okay. So it's
2 times
anyone?
radius.
Oh, that's the circumference. The 2 times pi times the radius. Area. Okay. So okay. Let me answer that. So it's pi r and then squared. Just that. Okay. So that's for a circle. But how about for a semicircle? For a semicircle means, okay, do you guys have any idea what's a semicircle? Just take a guess. It's a circle, and then what's a semicircle? Semicircle is, of course, it's half of a circle, right? So if it's a semicircle, so let me change my formula now. Okay, it should be a or area of a semicircle, okay, is equal to is equal to pi r squared, but now this time it's divided by 2. Okay, so that's your answer for number 1. Okay, and then basically for number 2, you just need to answer the follow-up question. Okay, so given that area of a semicircle is pi r squared divided by 2, and what if the radius given is 5 centimeters only? So that is equal to area is equal to pi, and then the radius is 5 squared divided by 2. Okay. Now, by the way, when you have questions with pi, we don't use 3.14. Okay, remember that. We don't use, where's my calculator? Okay. We don't use 3.14 class. We use the pi in your calculator. Can you locate your pi, the pi value in your calculator? Usually it's at the bottom part. You need to press shift and then pi. You guys see that? You see the pi? Okay. So we don't use 3.14. We use the actual value of pi in the calculator because there's a pi in your calculators. Okay. But anyway, so let's answer this. So it's 25 times pi divided by 2. Okay. So you can express your answer in terms of pi. You can answer as like this. 25 over 2 pi centimeters squared, or as decimal, it's fine. 39.20 or 39.2, 3 significant figures, or 39.3 centimeters squared.